Hello, guys. Welcome back to a new Teen Talks episode. We are here with João Vitor, which he was a Brazilian student who studied at Eleva, and he got a full scholarship in computer science in Duke. And my first question is, how do you get a full scholarship in Duke? Like it's a prestigious school, like everyone wants to go there. And how was the process?
Yes. So first, thank you for inviting me here. So I think applying to Duke, just like applying to any other university abroad, um, is a very hard process. It's already hard if you live in America. It's 10 times harder if you don't live in the country, if you're international, and it's even 10 times harder if you can't afford. So yeah, I applied. My year of application was 2020. It was particularly hard because of the pandemic. Uh, but in a way, it also helped me kind of focus more on the application because I was staying at home the whole time. Although it was still really stressful. I applied to 10 universities. I got into Duke and Rice with Fulbright. And I think the process is pretty much the same. The only difference is that when you're applying for financial aid, you also include documents that comprove your financial circumstances. And usually those are also taken into consideration because let's say like you could be accepted into university, but they also might not have the money for the scholarship, so they will just reject you. They won't tell you why. Um, so in the end of the day, it's an extra criterion that they will take into consideration for your application. But yeah, I think it's as hard as anything. It's just a matter of doing the process correctly.
Um, so since you applied to 10 different universities, do you think like each university have a different like approach to it, like a process, or like each one is like the same?
Usually, different countries might have different processes. In the United States, you can apply through Common App, which is the platform where you just apply to any university. It's pretty much the same. What changes is some universities, uh, like back then, were test optional, some weren't, or like the essays would change. And I think that's the most important part, the essays. Uh, but then apart from that, there's not much like the process as a whole is pretty much the same. It's very different from Brazil, for example, where uh you just take a test and that's it. So yeah.
Okay. Look, you studied computer science in Duke, right? So what inspired you to do computer science as a field of study?
Yeah, so I think since I was like 13, um my first time like that I actually enjoyed coding something, which I was 13. My dad gave me an Arduino. Um, and my dad is an electrician, so he doesn't know how to exactly use the Arduino. And the Arduinos are these microcontrollers where you can connect a bunch of stuff and then you code and then you see lights blinking, things like that.
Yeah.
And my dad gave me one. He said, "Oh, you should learn." And then I remember that night I didn't sleep. I was just learning about it. And that day I realized like this is really cool. Like I want to keep doing this. And I think since then I realized my passion for engineering, like especially computer engineering. And then actually, I when I came to Duke, I started with electrical and computer engineering, and then eventually realized no, I want to do computer science. But yeah, it's been a while since I really like coding, and I think yeah, it's something that's been with me for some years.
Uh, that's that's nice. Do you have any like challenges in like computer science, like, and how do you like approach to it? You know?
Um, well, I think yes, as just anything else, there's a bunch of challenges. I think especially in computer science. Um, well, the last 1 2 years has been a little bit hard to be hired for from by big companies, and the reason for that is the whole uh, thing where the inflation and then companies don't make as much profit, so they have to lay off a bunch of people. And then the year I was applying for a job in tech companies here, it just happened that every single company was laying off. I lost a lot of opportunities because they like I remember like I got an interview for Stripe, which is a big fintech company here, and I was so confident I did well. But then the following day, they fired 10,000 people. So then I was like, yeah, they definitely not hiring me, and they rejected. But eventually it worked out. I got into Microsoft. It was really hard because, well, exactly because of this year. But in the end of the day, everything worked out. But yeah, I think the last years have been more um have been harder for people in the area to find
Yeah,
jobs, but
because
not as hard.
isn't like more and more people are interested in computer science, so like it's a more how I could say, like a competitive market, right?
Yeah, no, it's very competitive. Definitely, like the demand is way higher than the supply, and I think it's gonna be the case for some years still, uh, even with AI and everything. But it's true that especially like big companies, they have like a lot of people competing for the same job, so it's very hard to get it.
Yeah, talking about AI, what do you think about that, like the advancements of AI will impact the future of computer science?
Um, I think AI will, well, I think many things. I think first AI is very hyped. Just like it was some years ago, it's being hyped again. People are overhyping it. Not to say that it's not impacting the world. It definitely is. It definitely will. It's just that, as always, people think this is the end of everything, and it's not
Yeah,
necessarily. I think there's many advancements to come. This large language model was one of them, but many things still need to happen in order for AI to be more important for the world. But as of now, I think AI is changing um, in a way that we weren't expecting. That's basically like software development itself um, is using more AI, like like tools like Copilot that like basically fills out wherever you're coding, and then they created this Devian AI that basically codes for you.
yeah,
And I think for sure that's like I I'm not gonna say it's gonna substitute developers because developing is not just typing things; it's about understanding and engineering. It's engineering as well. But I'm sure that it's gonna change over time. The like just like in the 70s, people would code by poking holes into cards and putting in a machine, and then people would code in Fortran and then C, and nowadays it's like high level languages. I think this is just gonna be a more high level thing in the technology world. Yeah.
but you see as a AI as a disadvantage or an advantage? Because like it could be a disadvantage because like maybe in the future it could replace, but not now for sure, because now it's like not that like technology advanced, right? But
Mhm.
you see as an advantage or a disadvantage for developers?
Well, for developers specifically, I think it's an advantage. I think it's not gonna substitute at all the people. It would definitely like increase the productivity. Like nowadays, I even use Copilot. It's so much faster. So for sure, like it's an advantage because it lets you like do as long as like higher level stuff. It doesn't mean you're not gonna be able to code. You're not gonna have to code because the AI is not gonna be 100% accurate. So you're still gonna have to understand the code and code, but you're gonna have a framework to work from, like something to help you with. I think that's very advantageous. I think AI has a lot of risks when it comes to society, but in terms of like especially developers, I think it's gonna be fine.
Okay. Um, so computer science is a very like broad area, right? So which specific area in computer science you think is like fascinating, or like would you like to specialize in?
Yeah. So to me, I think I just like a little bit of everything. I am not particularly interested in a specific area. I like knowing about a bunch of stuff. But I think something I've been studying lately that's kind of interesting, and I'm considering going to this path, cybersecurity. Uh, I I always had an idea of what hacking was and what like cybersecurity was, but I never actually studied it. And I feel like I'm in a point in college where things are like starting to make sense from the beginning. So like everything kind of fits together. And then like I'm able to understand much better concepts of cybersecurity, like that I wouldn't understand before, like especially because I didn't have the same knowledge in systems and computer architecture that I have nowadays. And that's really interesting, honestly. Like um, it's one of those things where people or companies don't invest as much until something happens and then they start investing.
Yeah.
But then when you learn like about the inherent risks of any, uh, machine, like any software, how it can be exploited by malicious actors, and like the fact that we are dependent upon these machines for everything in our day-to-day lives, and all our data is there, and it's honestly pretty easy to exploit it. So yeah, that's it's really fun. It's kind of scary, but it's really fascinating.
Okay. But like imagine I have a lot of like friends in school, right? They say like, oh, I like computer science, but then like the teachers are like, okay, but which part of computer science? So like, how would you like give like advice to like young teenagers, like to like, okay, but which part I want to specialize into, like which process they need to go
Mhm.
to, or which questions need to ask themselves?
I think honestly, you shouldn't necessarily specialize in anything until like at least middle of your college. And I feel like there's different people in the area. There's people who are very, very technical who will be really good at some topic. But like there's machine learning engineers who like maybe are not as good in computer architecture, but they're like it's not their work, it's not their what they work on. And I think that's fine. I think like there's a lot of people who like we need these specialists, but there's also people who are generalists and just have, a broader view of everything. They might not be the best in everything, but they have an understanding of how everything works, how everything fits together. And those people are needed, especially for like also like managing, but also like developing products, and also just being the person with the broader view. But I think honestly that a good approach that I had was just be curious about and try to learn as much as I could since high school. I don't think, I mean, I'm sure like if you're interested in AI or interested in cybersecurity and you want to develop a project in that, go and do it. But don't limit yourself to that because it's too early to know. It's really hard to know exactly what you're gonna like. And especially when you go to college, things change really quick because you start. I think the most important thing in college is not you when you learn what you like, but when you learn what you absolutely hate. So over
Yeah,
time, you're gonna see like, I hate this. I don't want to do this.
yeah, that's the way
Um,
to approach it. Yeah.
yeah.
In America is like easier, no, because like you can change your courses like easier than like in Europe, for example. And okay, that's good. Okay. Um, do you think that computer science will affect other fields such as like biology, economy, and it will shape the future and innovation?
No, I think for sure. I think each day more, because a lot of fields, a lot of experts are starting to make the bridge to computer science more and more. Like for example, biology, one of the major developments in the last years was the DeepMind, which is a subsidiary of Alphabet, which is Google basically.
Yeah.
They researched um, protein folding, which has been a problem for decades, like how to solve protein folding. I don't know the specifics, it's some biology thing, but it's very important because you
Yeah.
can medicine out of that, you can like understand systems better. And they solved it with AI, with large language models and a lot of things in other fields, more and more are being solved by computer science or being understood better by computer science because computer science has the capacity to model those things and to um, you know, especially like now with really large computers, and then um, quantum computing, something that's emerging, that's gonna allow for even better simulations of the world. So that's definitely gonna be something.
Um, so I have a question about like cybersecurity. Look, I think, in my opinion, cybersecurity is very how can I say, under appreciated. Like people doesn't see as like a big problem. Do you think it should be taught earlier, like in schools or like in high schools? Like, what do you think? Like, what's your opinion?
I think well, I think cybersecurity necessarily um is something that you, in order to actually understand it, you need a good basis in computer science and in the foundations like architecture. I think everybody should have a better understanding of, especially nowadays that like kids have computers since they're 5. They might not realize the risks and the amount of data they're giving and they're letting go. Um, so I think people should definitely like have a better understanding of it and have, being taught like, okay, like be careful what you do online. It's not safe. Be careful how you share your data to who. Be careful of the passwords. Blah blah blah. I think that's gonna be more and more critical as like more and more things become digitalized.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in terms of like actually understanding, except for a few geniuses that learn how to hack when they're like 13 and don't even know how they do it, you need a lot of basis to actually understand it. Yeah.
Um, no, because like I don't know, as you said, like more and more kids are getting like computers um like earlier. So what do you think is like the ideal age to get like as access to technology or online stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I don't think it's a good idea to give kids iPads or cell
Yeah,
phones. Um, I was give like because well, my age, but my first phone, I think I was like 13, which to me was kind of young. Um, but I mean, for my kids, I would only give them a phone after 15. I think it's becoming really critical how like technology is shaping how people perceive the world, especially like TikTok. People
yeah.
have no attention span. But yeah, that's the thing apart. But I'm sure that it's not a good idea to give people, kids technology too early. And I don't think it's a crazy thing to say because they should be able to engage with the real world before they're able to engage with the digital world. The digital world can be too overwhelming and you can't really control it, and you need just like some maturity to be able to engage with it honestly.
No, because like the problem is like a lot of kids are like their attention span is getting like really low because like quick
Mhm.
videos, and like how do like do you know like the program behind like the algorithm? So like imagine if I like something in Instagram, like another like after 10 posts it will appear the same thing again. Like what do you think, like how you code that, you know?
No, yeah, it's just they just use a lot of data from you, and they keep capturing as much data as they can. So, like when you're watching a video, if you spend more time in the video, that means you like that. If you don't even look at the video, you don't like that. So they just keep using that idea of like when you're scrolling, if you like it, you like it even more, and then they give a number to that, and then eventually, like they try to understand what's gonna keep you basically like hooked for the
Yeah.
longest time possible because that's what they're looking for. They're just trying to make you kind of addicted so they can sell more ads. And that's basically what they do. Like they check how much time is he spending here. Is this helping? And for each thing, they keep like optimizing that until the algorithm understands you better and better and better and better. I don't have TikTok, but I know TikTok's really good at that. But like Instagram Reels as well, like they're really good at understanding you just by that.
Oh, okay. Look, this is a very like hard topic. Do you think this like algorithm thing, it's like, do you think it's like invasion of privacy or is something that like a teenager should expect or no? What do you think?
Uh, I don't I don't think they like when they're doing that, all they have to do is see like how much time you spend in each reel or each TikTok. So I don't think it's necessarily invasion of privacy, but I do think that it's like a really bad incentive for a social network because when you think about Facebook, like um, in the beginning, the idea of Facebook was connecting people. Of course, it didn't turn out to be well. over time, Facebook also had many problems, but it was still like the main idea. But then eventually, like I feel like social networks, social media just got really weird in a sense because more and more it was about like ads and ads and ads.
Got out of
And this is
control.
how they make money. Like this is how they make money, ads. So, but the thing is, they just didn't even try to hide it anymore. It was just like the whole time ads, 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 ads. And now basically, Reels, they just you know, or like TikTok or all of those formats with like the short videos. They're just trying to make you addicted so they can sell you the ads. And it might not be like invasion of privacy, but it's definitely like something that's not good. You know, like it's really like playing with your dopamine attention span, you know, like, and that's not okay.
Okay. Look, changing the topic. Do you have any experience with internships or no?
Yes, yes,
Okay. Do they like influence your like your view towards computer science or no?
for sure. I think so. My first internship was just after high school, before because before coming to Duke, the calendar year is different from Brazil to America. So
Right.
I had like yeah, so I had like 7 months without nothing to do, and then I interned at a fintech in Brazil. It was really good actually, I think, especially before college. It was a good way for me to understand what the real world needs because sometimes college can be very, uh, you know, and that not really like r- real, I would say. Like you just learn a bunch of things that you don't know you're gonna need. So when you have a real world experience, you can at least say, okay, this is helpful. This is not helpful. And then yeah, and then I had two more internships. Uh, again, the second one was in Brazil. The third one, I went to Microsoft here, and then I'm going back to Microsoft now. And I think each time it's just even better because you like are able to actually apply what you're learning, and it makes honestly more fun what you're learning just because you just feel like you have better impact in the world that you can't really see when you're just studying.
I have a question. Like, how does like internship works? Like, did they like teach you, or do you like see them doing their stuff, or you just work with them? You know?
Hmm. Yeah, so it's a mix. Usually, they're not expecting an intern to actually like uh go beyond and do things that are actually going to impact the company. What they do is they give you projects that they need to like be ready, but are not necessarily like for tomorrow. Like they're not urgent, but it
Yeah.
would be nice if somebody did them. So if they just do that because if you're not able to accomplish it, then it's still fine. Like it's not going to impact the company. But yeah, they do that a lot. Like they just give you these projects and they try to mentor you through it. But honestly, it varies. Like there's like big techs, they have, especially like big companies, they have a lot of money to spare, so they're able to invest in long term um, returns, and then like being able to bring interns, even though they might be useless for the company at first, the first second time. It's good for them because they're thinking about long term, and in 3 years you're gonna be an employee that's gonna understand and gonna be helpful to the company. So I feel like big companies usually they are even more chill about it because they're like they have enough money. But
Yeah.
when it's a smaller company, usually they prefer people that, even though they're interns, they still can make more impact and like can be more helpful.
Okay. Just to finish to wrap this up, what advice would you give to someone considering studying computer science at university?
Um, my advice would be, I think, very stay humble and stay like curious about different stuff. Uh, don't only not do not only study computer science as well. I feel like a lot of people in the field have this uh feeling that they just have to be really good at coding, but that's not it. You need to be good at multiple things. And day after day, the industry asks for more soft skills for like literally like dealing with people. Like you can't really get a project done if you can work in a group, if you can like meet deadlines, blah blah blah. So I think all of that is important. but also like yeah, computer science is you should be doing it not because it looks cool or because everybody's talking about it, but because you're actually interested. I think that's the most important part. It's like having this innate interest about technology and especially like computers, how they work. Um, I just feel like a lot of people nowadays just do it because everybody's talking about it, and I don't think that's a good approach.
Um, so just do it if you're really passionate. It's like every other area, right? So like, don't do it
Yeah.
because like of other people. Just do it if you're like really, you're literally with love, like you're like in love with it.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any last thoughts or no?
Um, well, last thoughts, I would just say like for anybody that's still in high school, um, to not stress out too much. I'm not. I know it looks really scary, especially when you're finishing high school. I remember those years. It was like, what's going on in my life? Especially because I was gonna study abroad, and it's just like everything was confused. Uh, and I feel like school for you had been, your safety net. And then you just lose it one day, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to the real world. Don't worry, college is not really the real world. But then after college is kind of the real world, but still, you're gonna adapt to it. It's not gonna be as hard as it looks. And like everybody that's in college or has been in any position has been that position that you are right now before. So it's just a matter of understanding timing and being patient.
Okay. João, I would thank you for your time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your experience and yeah. Okay, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.